that is my biggest advice to anyone who's in, going, because year three, and if you can remember this, year 3 to 4 is kind of when you snap up and you're like, oh, I really have a business. Even if you started it like, even if you have good foundations at the beginning, you kind of wake up and like, oh wow, because if you're doing things correctly,
right?
Your events increase. Every year you increase your cost or whatever.
Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. It's a heat wave, kind of a heat wave here in New York, but it is summer, so I suppose I shouldn't complain, right? Thanks for joining. We're going to be talking tonight with Irene, and we're going to be talking with her about how to be a CEO in your own business. Because I think one of the things that entrepreneurs, business owners, wedding professionals struggle with is really understanding what it means to kind of take over that title. Everyone wants to be a CEO. Everyone wants to say that they're a CEO, but actually doing it and being it and showing up that way looks very different than a lot of people's, kind of preconceived ideas. And so we're going to talk about that tonight with Irene, and also just what it means in terms of taking the extra time in your business to actually be a CEO. Because again, it can't just be a title, it has to mean something. And so understanding what you need to be doing during that time, it's important to make sure that you A, know what you're supposed to be doing, and then B, also take the time to do that. So we're going to have Irene join. Make sure my internet connection's working properly. Ah, there she is.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Happy Tuesday.
I know. I was going to say Monday, and then I was like, wait, no, today's Tuesday. I always lose track. I'm like,
If I didn't have a calendar or a phone to tell me, or children to tell me what day it is, I was like, is today Tuesday or is it Monday? I did the same thing. Like, what day of the week is it? And then we're gonna have tacos for dinner, so it's Taco Tuesday. So
there you go. See, I need to be like more regimented about my Taco Tuesdays, and then I'll always remember.
Oh, but every once in a while, I'll do tacos on Thursdays, and my son is like, "Oh, Taco Thursday." I'm like, "No, I just felt like eating tacos today." I mean, it's really whatever is quickest and fastest to get on the table.
Right. Oh my God. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how are you doing?
Thanks so much for joining. I'm doing good. I'm so excited tonight to talk about kind of how to be a CEO in your own business, because I know that it's one of the things that a lot of people, I was saying, they really struggle with, because
it is
really understanding what that means, what that looks like. Not everybody really gets that. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things that people need to really, really know a little bit more about.
Mm-hmm.
But to start out, why don't you kind of give people your background if they're not familiar with who you are, and kind of, what you do in the industry besides speaking and educating.
Well, my name is Irene Tyndale, like she said, and I am a chief event. I call myself the chief event officer of our Irene Tyndale Wedding and Events, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Been planning wedding and events for 20-something years. So I've been in the industry since college. And even before I was even getting a paycheck, I was doing it. It's just crazy. So I always tell people who are interested in doing this, like, would you do this for free? And they look at me, I'm like, no, would you do it for free? That's when you know you love what you do. Because I did it for free. I didn't even know it was a job. That's to be honest. Like, I didn't even know this could be a job. So, but I'm a mother, a wife of, I'm a mother of 2, a wife. I'm an educator. I coach aspiring and new planners. And I just love, like, when I learn something, I love to turn around and teach others. But I've had some great mentors in my life, even before mentoring was kind of a thing. They just, like, you're my mentor. And some of them I knew them personally, and some of them I didn't. So, and I've been in business on my own for going on 8 years. So in November will be 8 years.
Awesome.
Yes. So lots of learning.
I love it. And I mean, and that really, I mean, it's one of those things that, you can be really good at what you do, whether it's planning or as a photographer or DJ or whatever it is you do. But then to have your own business and to be really good at running your business, it's a whole nother set of traits and skills and criteria that you have to really
Yes.
consider. And a lot of people don't fully understand what that means. And even the difference between like if you are just going to be, you know, kind of self-employed versus if you're going to be adding people to your team or like growth
Right.
expanding, like what that looks like. So really, I mean, first, I think it's important for people to understand that, you know, they have to kind of know in their mind what they want out of,
Right. Out of your business.
you know, because,
Yeah.
and there's no, I always say that there's no shame there. You don't have to, you know, if you love planning, you can work. I mean, there's tons of planners. So you can work for a planner. You
Yes.
have to have your own business. Same thing for a photographer. Say it doesn't matter. Like the most important thing is making sure that you're going to be happy doing what you enjoy. But if you don't
Absolutely.
know what that is, it can be, you know, kind of overwhelming, and you feel like you're failing when, you know, maybe it's just because
You
you're,
don't know. Like you
yeah,
don't know what you don't know.
right.
And so even if you're, high school, college educated, even if you have a master's degree, I was teaching at Kennesaw State University. I taught the business of wedding planning for the school of hospitality. It wasn't an adjunct, it wasn't a certificate, it was an actual class for the school of hospitality. And I will always tell my students, you could start an underwater basket weaving company. I mean, all business is the same. Like the first, it's boring. I remember I tell them, like when they started the class, I'm like, I'm telling you, the first part of the quarter, the first 4 weeks of the quarter is all talking about business and how to start your business and how to lay out that foundation and all that stuff. And then we get into the wedding, the planning portion of it
Yeah.
and how the magic happens. I was like, but if you're looking into starting a business, I don't care what business you start, it's all the same.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, my daughter is 10, and right now, during this time, beginning of this time, she wanted to do the slime business. She did a proposal, a presentation, got a
Wow.
little investment from the Bank of Tyndale, and then it wasn't going the way she wanted it to go. But now her other love is, I mean, she's a girl, is like fashion and lip glosses and all those, if she wants to sell eyelashes, bless her heart. I mean, but now she's putting together a proposal, and I told her, I said, and she's putting together a new proposal, a new business plan. I said, it's the same premise, baby.
Yeah.
You went from selling slime to selling lipstick. Like, it's the same premise, but you still have that same foundation of, we all do that. But the reality of it, Megan, is that majority of us go into business because we had a skill and a passion that we just wanted to do that, and we wanted to service people. We wanted to use our skills and passion. Majority of us on wake up, I'm going to go start a business and let me see what I have to do to figure it out. Now, there's a whole new generation out there now that's doing that, and I applaud you all because you're keeping coaches busy and keeping platforms like the Bridal Masterclass busy and
Right.
so forth and so forth, and like Our Planner Academy's coming out. Or you're keeping us busy because you've either just is a generation of a bunch of smarty pants, right? Or B, they just have heard all of us been here for a while saying, I didn't have a plan when I started this mess.
Right. Right. Well, and that's a big part of it is really understanding that, you know, that your chance of success in having your own business very much is tied to understanding what you need to do
Mm-hmm.
so that you last longer than a couple months or even a year. I mean, and that's the cold hard facts are
Yes.
it's but by the time you get to 5 years, it's like, I think it's like 50% at 5 years, and then only like it's like 70% of small businesses go out of business by year 10. So those are the cold hard facts. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know,
And I
COVID,
think,
at a recession,
right,
doesn't
right.
matter if
And a
you're
lot of times, I think, though, too, sometimes it's not because sometimes it's burnout. Like,
yeah,
I truly think this time is doing a couple of things. Like, the time that we're in is doing a couple. It's weeding out weeding out the hobbyist,
right.
the people that, and it's not even because I've had these conversations in the past few months. It's not even like people who do this as a side hustle. Because I have some girlfriends and some friends, some guy friends who do this part-time who are killing it because they love their full-time jobs. That fulfills them too, but then they have this creative outlet of planning
Right.
and photography and videography that they take maybe 2 weddings a month, and that income is paying off cars and student loans and
Yeah.
and tuition for kids, schools, and it's great. But they're it's not even a side hustle. They're working 2 full-time jobs because they're putting equal,
Yeah.
if not more, on their side hustle.
Right,
But
right, right.
but it's also going to weed out the people that are like, I got married yesterday and I want to plan today.
Right, right.
I mean, I know, I can only speak on planning world. It's very low entry, border, like it's very
Yeah.
low cost entry. Like
Not
it doesn't really much, I told somebody, it's like, you have a clipboard and a website and you're good to go. Like, you're good to go. You don't have to buy equipment. You don't have to buy DJ equipment. It's no shade. I didn't wake up saying, I had my wedding years after planning. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go work for someone else and then start a business. Like, that's how we did it. But, so you have people, I think this time is going to weed people out
mm-hmm.
that are just been doing it like play, like just hanging in there,
Right, right.
coming in and out, not really taking their business seriously. But it's also gonna give people permission who've been tired, who
Yeah.
have been tired, who don't know how to say, who have not known how to close the doors and be like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's because they've been in business for so many years or they're just burnt out, because the
Right.
reality is we all get there at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
We all get there at some point. So that's I feel like that's what's going on right now. Like, am I going to end this for a couple more years or not? Because you're right. It's the statistics, like, what, 50% of the businesses won't last 5 years. And I think it's even high. I think it's even,
I think it went up
it,
to 8%.
yeah, they
Like,
did a 3 year, a five
right.
year, and then 10 plus years. And they say if you make it over 5 years, you're good. But also at the 5 year mark, are you making money?
Right,
Like, is
right,
there a
right.
profit? Overall, that's how they look at it. Like, are you profiting or is there lost? That's how they look at that.
Right. And I mean, when it comes to actually being a CEO in your own business, I think that that's probably one of the most important things is because, when you're not thinking as the CEO, it's easy to just get stuck in this cycle of like, oh, what do I have to do? Okay, I have to do that. And you're just reactionary and that wears you out.
Right.
I mean, because you don't know how much energy to reserve for all the tasks you have to do every day. And then pretty soon you're like, whoa, I have nothing left in the tank and I need to still put out 10 more fires. Like, what am I
Yes.
for?
You're right. You're right. But I think there's like, business goes in different stages. So you have like the idea. Like, I had the idea, whether you have the idea to start a business or the idea was given to you. So I read this book, Christy Wright, The Business Boutique. It's a great book. And she tells this analogy, and I use this analogy. The moment I read it, like, it was like a light bulb. I love it's such a good book. And her mom was a wedding cake baker. So she breaks her books down into 4 tiers, like a 4 tier cake. It's amazing. It's really cool that, like, she had that. I loved it, that analogy, the analogies that she used. But in this particular story, she's like, Susie makes a quilt for her.
Oops. Okay. We're having technical difficulties. Irene, can you hear me? Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I know. So Susie, makes the quilt. Nancy posts the quilt, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, so pretty! Who made the quilt?" Well, she goes, "My girlfriend Susie made the quilt." So Susie, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh!" So she makes another one and another one for friends, and then a friend of a friend, sees it and says, "Hey, does she sell those?" And there goes Susie's quilting idea. And she hits the ground running. She's making quilts. And she wakes up one day and realizes she has a business. No invoicing system, no business
Right.
account, nothing formal. She's using her personal account for her business account. She's doing all these things and didn't even realize she had a business. Like, she just started a business. And the book says the majority of women, no shade to us, but the majority of women slide into business, right? And for some reason, it's hard for us to take on that CEO title or that business owner title, or to charge a certain amount. Like, it's just like a heavy burden. Not all of us, because it's not all of us. It's just a generalization. But she said most people in general slide into business, and then one day wake up and like, wait, I have a business. Like, oh,
Right, right.
and maybe not incorporate it, maybe not register it with the state or the county or the city or anything like that.
And so what do you think, like, when it comes to kind of the top mistakes people make when they think they're doing everything right, being the CEO of their business, but they're really not and they're hurting themselves. What do you think that some of those are?
I think, first of all, let's get a definition. So the Urban Dictionary basically says that a CEO, the chief executive officer, owner,
Right.
not necessarily the person who owns the business, like the head person, lady, man, doesn't matter, is the person who is responsible for everything from the top down, down up. Like you're responsible for everything. That doesn't mean that you have to do everything. It just means you're responsible for everything. You're supposed to know it all. Like, which is, I'm a nosy Rosie. So that's why being a planner is very up my alley. I'm the eldest child and I'm just bossy by nature and I need to know. I am always on a need to know basis. Like my husband will tell me something and I'll ask him a bunch of questions. He's like, no, I didn't ask that. I'm like, why did you ask that? Like, I need to know everything. I need to know the full picture so I can give you the logistics. That's just how I am. But you need to know it all. But I think what happens is that people feel like they have to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know it all, but that doesn't mean you have to do every single thing in the business. And what happens is there's two analogies, like you're working in your business or you're working on your business, right? That's it. So as a CEO, you gotta break those things up. Working in your business is servicing the clients and producing what you sold, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a florist, it's actually when you're processing when you're ordering flowers, when you're processing flowers, when you're building these beautiful masterpieces, when you're setting up, you're breaking down, that is working in your business, servicing your clients or producing what you sold, right? That's working in the business. And honestly, if I could do that every day, all day, and somebody else could manage the entire business for me, I would be the happiest little clam on the planet. I would be like Sebastian under the sea. Like, just leave me there. I would be, because that's what comes easy to me. And I always say this, and people laugh. I'm like, I could plan an event, blindfolded, gagged, and hands tied behind my back. Like, it's just easy for me. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, you could plan an event without stressing out, not even like losing your mind, but the kids get you rattled. And I said, yeah. At work, I tell people go left, they go left. At home, I say go left, everybody goes right. I mean, that's just how it is, right? It's just, I can't treat them like I treat vendors and team members and bridal parties. Like, I just can't. It doesn't work. I've tried. It doesn't work. But, the working in your business is what you love. It's your passion, right? It's what comes easy to you, what comes natural to you. And you just do it. And it's like you're in your element. Like, I talk to so many, and then our industry is full of creatives, right? Majority of us are creatives. And so I have a creative gene, but that's not my superpower. Like, I love logistics and details and knowing it all and how everything works and pulling it all together and making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it. But I talk to the creators and they're like, but I really just want to be at the flower mart and I want to be at the like antique shop looking for stuff and playing with fabric. Like, yes, but my bride is waiting for a quote. Like,
Right.
yeah, like my bride needs a quote. I cannot create your quote for you. Please give me a quote. And so, that's working in your business. That's our superpower. And then the working on your business, that's all the CEO stuff. That's the big picture thinking. That's the marketing plans. That's the making sure that you have business that you work in. Because if you're not doing CEO stuff, that calendar is going to die. That's going to be an empty calendar, and worse yet, an empty bank account.
Right. For sure.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So it's finding that balance of the two and actually finding time for it and saying, I'm going to not do this right now to do this, right? You don't have to be the project manager. You don't have to be the admin. You don't have to be the scheduler. You don't have to be the do all your finances. You don't have to be the customer service person. You don't have to create it. And believe me, in the beginning of my business 8 years ago, I was spending time on YouTube and everywhere else trying to figure out how can I do my own website and how can I do my own social media. And then I realized that's not my superpower because I kept putting it to the side and putting it to the side and putting it to the side and didn't do it. But it needed to be done. So yeah, so you have to break those two things down.
I love that because that really is kind of, I think one of those things is understanding, number one, what are you good at? And some people, they might have both. They might be good at both. And that's
great.
I
know some people like that. And I'm
right.
Like, that's awesome. Like I know some people that have that good business foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then but a lot of that comes from working for someone else's business or having a master's degree and working in business,
Yep.
and you feel the inner workings of a business, or your family owns a business or something like that. You have to have an example of it.
Right.
Or you dived in and was like, before I even take on my first wedding, I'm going to make sure that this business is solid.
Right. And those are things that, you know, again, whether you kind of slide into business or
Mm-hmm.
you're part of this, you know, smarty pants generation. I love that term where you're like,
They just know a lot.
it's like, well, because, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, the awareness of, I mean, one, there's the internet, which, you know, 20 years ago when I started, you know, the internet was like that, you know,
It was
yeah.
the turtle.
It was like we're typing in, you know, Boolean searches in Alta Vista and nothing's like, you know, there's nothing on. It's like there's
We had
only so
Yahoo. Yeah,
search.
we had Yahoo, and it was at AOL, and it was so slow.
Yeah, but there
And that was it.
on there to look up. So I
That's
mean,
it.
that's the other thing is like now there's so much information that people can find, and I love the fact that people are interested and aware enough to say, hey, I need to know this about my to have a business, and it's not enough just to be a good creative because
No.
you know, when it comes to really setting yourself apart from everyone else, yes, you can do beautiful work and, you know, whether that's floral or, you know, you're a photographer or a videographer, but at the end of the day, if everything else about your business is kind of going to pot,
Yeah.
you know, it's not
Yeah.
going to last long.
Because
So,
I mean, the saddest thing is to hear like rumblings about colleagues that do produce amazing work, have beautiful work out there, but their client experience is not good.
right.
Their working relationships with other wedding pros is not well. That is hard. That's hurtful, because I will tell you this: 75, I would say 75 to 80% of my business comes from referrals, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a past client, a client, you know, a potential client who was like, you know what, I can't afford you, but I'm going to refer you to my friends, because we have that before.
Yeah.
Or our vendor partners, like our pro partners, like they will refer us. So it's like, and they talk to each other, like they talk to, you know, we talk to each other, and it's like these, like, oh, they do experience, but their back end is not good. And that's it. And the thing about it is, it's easily fixed, right? It's easily fixed, but it's, you have to make an investment. And I know, if you're in the year 1, 2, and 3 of your business, every penny counts. Listen, I was talking to my business coach the other day, and she was like, I think it was Saturday, and she said 2015, 2016 was like one of her, what she thought was her best grossing year. Like, she's like, I did really well. But when the accountant looked at it, it's like, you paid yourself only $10,000. The
Yeah.
company made XYZ, but you only made 10,000. And she's like, two things. I wasn't lacking anything. So does that mean that I could actually live less than I need? But, you know, but still, she was kind of like, I didn't make as much as I think. But you just have to know you have to know your numbers. You have to know that, but you have to, and no one says that you have to outsource, because that is my biggest advice to anyone who's in, you know, going, because year 3, and if you can remember this, year 3 to 4 is kind of when you snap up and you're like, oh, I really have a business. Even if you started it like, you know, even if you have good foundations at the beginning, you kind of wake up and like, oh wow, because if you're doing things correctly,
Right.
your events increase, the you know, every year you increase your cost or whatever, what you charge. And I think that's what happened to me. Like, you know, what happened to me was I was laid off, or like my husband says, God released me from a job that I loved at a hotel. Yeah, because I was like, I was fired. He's like, no, this is what it was meant to be. And
Yeah.
almost in year 8, I truly see that now. But I was released 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and I was devastated. But of course, I didn't cry at work when I got up the road maybe 5 miles from the road, and pulled over. I was like, you know, because of course, bigger salary, bigger house, kids in private school. You start like, you know, the what ifs, you know, Christmas is around the corner, all that kind of stuff. And I called my husband, and thank God he was home that day from work. He was off that day. And he was like, car accident? No. Did somebody die? And it was just, and we've been together for so long that he just kind of goes to the list, and he's just like, I just, he's like, are you driving? I'm like, no. He's like, okay. It was very unusually cold in November, but it was cold. He's like, pull down the windows, breathe.
Oh,
He was like, I cannot understand you.
oh.
And I did my breathing. I calmed down. I was like, I was fired. He was like he literally was like, relax. You weren't fired. God released you. Get home. And he goes, if you have to drive 20 miles an hour, just be careful. Get home. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, this man. And then he was like, of course, he let me have my little pity party that day. And then I think that same night or the next day, he was like, you just start a business. And I was like, no. I never had the idea. And even my friends in college were like, a few of them had ideas, record labels and things like that to start. And I would help them do the research. I'm like, I'll do your parties. Like, I'll do your parties and I'll plan things for you. But I never thought about, I always had a goal to be, I always say, the chick in the corner office. That was my thing. Like, I just always wanted to be the CEO of someone else's company. And, he's like, started coming. I was like, no. And then the holidays happened. I said, I'll have a job latest March, is what I said. And then, no lie, maybe first week in January. And I literally I was starting to get used to the idea of starting my own business and was starting to like research a website and just like what name I was going to do. Research, that's it. And two of the brides from the hotel that I worked at hunt me down, messaged me with like, we need you. Where are you? We found out you're not there. And I was like, so I called my first bride, Nicole. We're still really good friends. And I was like, I don't have a business license. I don't have anything. Like, I don't have anything. She was like, can you plan a wedding? And I was like, yes. She was like, meet me Saturday at Panera. That was it. She had a check in hand, and it's funny because I love it because those early years, when you see those checks from those early years, you're like, woo,
Yeah.
can't do that anymore. Not for full planning. And then that's what it started. And it's like, word got out that I started my own business, and I went from 5 weddings the first year to like 10 or 15 to 30 in my third year. And that's when I woke up and I was like, wow, I have a business. But I worked I was the lead on all 30 weddings that year. And I had an assistant who, again, my husband, bless his heart, he's like the behind the scene business manager always. Cause he's like, why you keep, like, he heard me say no. In 1 week, I said no to 3 referrals because it was just me.
Right.
I'm like, if I was booked, I was booked. And so that's what started. And then I kind of woke up on year 3 when Shelby, which went from, intern to assistant to lead. And she was so cute. She was like, all of this up here in your head, I needed in a manual. If you want me to have my own weddings and to be you. And I was like, oh, I have to do a manual?
Yeah. It's so funny because a lot of people are like, I need to like write everything down, like SOP.
Scary.
Like, yeah, you need your standard operating procedures. Like, it has to be so clear. Like, if you want to clone yourself, you got to know what they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. Yeah.
It's very important. And so I did that. It took me a while. Because I'm very much like, just follow. I teach by example. Like, I'm better at hands-on teaching than just follow me. And she was doing an amazing job by that. But as an assistant, she could read a timeline. She could read my brain. She could 5 steps ahead of me. She was great. But, for her to fully take on a bride from start to finish, she needed guidance.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll be there. She's like, yeah, but I don't want to always have to come to you for every checklist item. And I was like, oh, you're right. So that was the first kind of entry to that. And then, we partnered with the venue, and that went really well. And that started rolling and bringing in more business. And it's kind of like, and then I got, I signed up for a couple of mastermind groups for just putting my, to think more like a CEO and figure out my mission and vision and my why and ideal clients and branding. And the branding has changed a couple of times. I think the current branding that we have now is the one that I'm the most in love with. So that's been kind of part of the journey. And then the outsourcing. So the first thing I outsourced was social media. Because as a consumer, I love Pinterest and Instagram. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. And like, it's like downtime. But, about, you know, 4 or 5, I would say 4 years ago is when that was my first thing I outsourced. And I was like, I cannot afford not to do it. And so I had a mentor at the time that had introduced me to somebody, and I was like, well, congratulations. You know, you just started your social media company. I was like, it's on my my business bucket list, because I can't afford it. Because I had a girlfriend in Orlando that was paid at the time, was paying $500-600 a month. And I was like, oh, but it's a lot more than that now. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I would say no, 5 years ago, my girlfriend told me what she paid. I was like, are you kidding me? There's no way. And I've paid a lot more than that now, but you know, like you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
so Serena was my first social media manager. She was just starting her business, so we helped each other out a lot. And so she did it for a few years, and then just learning little different projects. And then the biggest thing that helped me, I would say, in 2017, 2018, a girlfriend of mine, her name is Marguerite Presley Davis, and she is amazing. And she's worked on like a business strategist on like Fortune 500 companies. Like she has a MBA from NYU. Like she's amazing. So she
Mm-hmm.
started her own company, and she started a company called Tulala, which is like subscription boxes for brides. But she was also working her corporate job, and she left her corporate job and started doing what she did for these corporate mergers and all that stuff for small businesses. And she sat down, and we had 3 sessions, 6 hours each session. And at the time, I was running 2 businesses. I was running the planning business and a bridal show. And we sat down. The first session was 6 hours. And she's like, you bring nothing but your brain and yourself. Like, just sit here in my office. And we dumped everything, my entire processes from start to finish, everything that I do. And then a couple of weeks later, I went for my second session, and she was like, it was 2 shepherd sheets. Like, it was like, for each one, it was like 20 different things with multiple things underneath each one. Think about all those little
Yep.
charts that you see. And she was like, when do you sleep? She's like, when do you sleep? When do you eat? When do you mother? When do you wife? Like, she's like, you can't keep running like this. And that was an eye opener. And I was like, and at that time, I had just hired like an VA operations. She started off as a VA, and now she's our branding and operations manager. It's crazy, right? But it was like, oh, I can't do all this. So you have to lay it out. You have to lay it out. And every time I tell this to coaching clients, I'm like, well, it's just me now. I'm a solopreneur. Yes. But like you said at the beginning, you have to have your goals. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you want from this business? Do you want it to just be a side hustle? Like, do you want it to just be something part-time to add to your family's income? Or do you want this to be an empire?
Right.
Like, I mean, really, what is it that you want?
That's it. Exactly. Because if you don't know what you're shooting for, and you don't know if you actually reach your goal, because you don't know what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
And the other aspect is you're always going to be thinking, I have to do this because I see this person doing it, or I have to do this because I see that person doing it. But that might not be your path, because that's not your goal.
No.
And and again, I always say this, I'm like, there is no shame. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, I need an empire and I'm taking over the world. And, like, you don't have to be that to be happy. And to know that yourself allows you to be able to really like strategize and focus and
Right.
navigate, so that you're not like in a depression, like looking at everyone else's social media, or
It's
like,
yeah. It's
yeah,
over comparing stuff, like, because I don't know, I don't know which Olympics it was, but whatever the Olympics were, because there's so many of them, where there was like the swimming like the swimming, right? I think it's something. And they always talk about how Michael Phelps, he doesn't pay attention.
yeah,
Michael is, first of all, his wingspan is crazy. Every time we see a commercial with him,
I know.
my husband and I are like, this man is a fish. Like, he's just
Yeah.
crazy. But when you watch him swim, he's not worrying about, if he's in lane 1, he's not worrying about 2, 3, 4, 5. He's worrying about his lane and his timing, right? But was it Ryan? His well, the other one is Ryan,
Yeah.
I can never remember, Lackey or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There was one where he was busy. They showed this. He was busy paying attention to the swimmer next to him, which slowed him down.
Yep.
So what does that tell you? Just stay in your lane. And one of my other mentors, Kathy Romero, she said this a couple years ago, and it's like I think about it all the time. Like you said, what is success to you? Is it doing 1 wedding a month? Is it doing 4 weddings a year? Is it, having a staff? Is it just, what is it to you? What is it? What do you need to live financially? What do
Right.
you need to make you happy, to get up out of bed in the morning? And that's where the ideal client comes from. Like, who
Right.
are the people that make you happy?
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. What does your brand make you smile? Do your clients make you smile? Do that kind of stuff? Because when work starts becoming a burden,
Right.
whether you work for yourself or you work for someone
Right.
else, that's a
Exactly.
problem. I mean,
Exactly.
which it is. And I mean, this time right now has gotten everybody to kind of slow down
Hmm.
and evaluate kind of like where they were, whether it's in their home, when their families, their work, their life in general. But I've told everybody, I'm like, we have been busier working on the business more than we ever have in 7.5 years.
Yep.
I have never worked on my business as much as I have the past few months. And it's all the things that nobody likes to do.
Well, and that you don't, it's like the Eisenhower matrix, there's the important and the urgent. So it's
Right.
understanding, just because it's not urgent, sometimes those things are the most important for you to actually move your
Mm-hmm.
forward. But if you're only doing the urgent stuff, you're only putting out fires, you're never going to get to the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that is really the blessing that, you know, 2020 has given
I
us.
know, right?
It,
She's just
it's
crazy.
unity. Yeah. And blessings come in crazy
Yes.
disguises sometimes, but really understanding like this is something that, that can benefit your business. And I think that the mark of a good CEO too is understanding that it's not about obstacles, it's not about setbacks, it's about understanding what's in front of you and how do I use that to my advantage.
Right.
Like period,
That's
the
it.
end. Because
That's it.
there's always an obstacle, there's always a disadvantage, there's always an issue. So what can we do, one, to resolve it? Two, if it can't be resolved, what are we going to do to make it work? Because we got to go forward, like.
You have to. That's the thing. So, but you have to decide. You
Right,
you
right.
have to decide. Like, and no shade. If you have been the flamingo, the ostrich with your head in the sand,
Right.
and just like super chill. What is it? Netflix and chilling, Huluing, Disney Plusing, all those plusings. Because I mean, I'm like now Netflix and chill is a completely different meaning, because I know people that have watched multiple seasons of multiple things. And I'm a couch potato when the time comes and I don't have a bunch to do. But a lot of times it's on in the background as background noise. I focus, but I was a person, I hated studying in the library when I was in college. Like, my husband and I never studied together because he's like Beethoven playing in the background, and Gillespie, like all this like super classic jazz and like classical music, and I'm just like, I either have some hip hop or R&B with the TV going, and I actually could focus that way, and it could be blasting, and I'm focused. So, but like a lot of people have done that, and I'm like, cool. In the beginning of this, okay. But then a bunch of us, March, April, we were all busy. When you weren't chilling, you were busy rescheduling clients and just rescheduling a couple of times, postponing whatever. And to me, especially as a planner, oh, that's like my Olivia Pope moment. Like, let's go. Like, this is what we're built for. Like, I not once shed a tear. I was sad for my clients because I'm like, I know how much money and time and love, and I know their stories, and I get invested. We're vested in them. Like, we love our couples and we love on them hard. And so I'm like, okay, I know I'm worrying about their elderly family members and grandparents, like that's kind of
Right.
stuff. But I was like, my sign, I'm a Taurus. I'm a Taurus. I'm a bull in a china shop. Like, what do we have to do, right? So once all that was situated and everybody was diffused and we handled it and everything was good, I was like, okay, so what next? I have all this time. Okay,
Right.
let's stuff in the house. Okay, that's done.
Right, right,
We
right.
got like a 16, I don't even know how big. We got this huge dumpster, and we cleaned out our garage, and we cleaned out our
Oh my
basement.
goodness.
My husband and I, like, it's the things that you talk about doing that you're like, okay, the holidays come. After the holidays, I'm busy with engagement season and bridal shows and marketing, and then spring comes, right? And we're busy servicing spring weddings, and then summer comes and it's hot. Nobody wants to do anything in the house when it's hot, right? So it was like, well, we have time. But then it was like, I was watching Good Morning America. like in April, I think it might have been. Yeah, early April. And they had the sharks on there, and people were regular business owners were sending in like little video questions to them. And Barbara and Mr. Wonderful won. And this one bridal salon owner, gown owner, was like, okay, what do I need to do to prepare for when the floodgates open? Because she's like, I know this is when we were all very optimistic that this was going to be over by May, right? This is how we feel. She's like, what do we do to get ready now that we're just kind of like sitting around? And she said, well, first and foremost, I need you to understand that weddings are not going anywhere. So the first wedding on record was 2350 BC. So before Christ, and between that and now, do you know how many pandemics and floods and crazy nonsense has happened, and economic downfalls and rises has happened, and people still got married? And then she was like, then of course she talked about the operational stuff and training and getting your books in order and stay connected. She's like, stay connected with your couples, the ones that are currently, the brides have currently bought dresses, and connect with those that are the future brides. And the thing that like literally brought tears to my eyes, she was like, keep them dreaming. That's all you need to do right now is keep people dreaming and keep positivity going with that, because they're getting enough ugly news out there. And the ugly is the weddings are being canceled and postponed and all that stuff. We don't need to keep dwelling on that. And literally that has been our mantra since April. In April, we took 2 weeks out in April, and we did a whole IG live series called Plan from Home with Atlanta Wedding Pros. And we interviewed like 10 of our favorite people, and we didn't talk about Rona not once. We were like, so what can we do? Just that. And we've gone, and we've literally shown up, whether it's a freebie, whether it's a video, whether it's an email blast, whether it's coming on and talking to other handles and stuff like that, accounts, whatever we had to do to just show face and show we're still here. Because I will tell you this, all my people who are watching, those watching live in the replay, if you have been sleeping on your social media and your website, and I as a planner send somebody over to go, Andre Brown Photography, which we work a lot with, or someone else, and they notice that you have not posted since March, they're freaking out because they're like, are they going to be in business next year, Irene? And I'm like, oh, I cannot answer that for you.
Right.
But as a planner, because it's, the buck starts and stops here, I'm like, I'm referring you, and here you are, just Netflixing and chilling, and your head in the sand. Like, that is not a CEO move. Like, a CEO move is like, what do I have to do to keep the lights on, the website going? And I've had so many of my colleagues, well, I don't have anything to post. Go through the archives of there's always past weddings, go through and repost them with some different captions. I'm pretty sure. Come up with the series. Like on Monday we posted it. It was National S'mores Day. We've had brides do that. We found a picture and we talked about that, and people loved it. It was National Cookie Day last week. It was International Beer Day last week. I said, I don't care. Just show up. Like, hey,
all these days so that I can have a reason to eat these things.
I know, it's so much fun. I mean, I don't know if you have little ones, but we have little ones. So like on National Pancake Day, and my son is a huge pizza. Like, he loves pizza, could be his thing, and pasta. So like on National Pizza Day, I'm like, it's it's National Pancake Day, it's Pizza Day, and it's like, yeah,
I love it.
All you have to do is Google like weird holidays or something like that, and it gives you a whole list. It's so much fun, and you just pick the ones that pertain to your, to your industry, like what you're doing. And we have one coming up, like National Dog Day, and we have so many of our brides who incorporate their puppies and their dogs into the wedding. And it was a National Relaxation Day. Like, just do something, or like, oh, I'm missing this, or give tips, something to show people that you're still breathing. There's a pulse to your company. Right. That's a CEO move.
Well, and
that's a CEO move.
Because you have to know that if you want your business to go forward 21, 22, they have to know that, number one, you care about your business, you're showing up. And number two, they have to have some level of confidence and trust that you're going to be around. Like, your business is still going to be in business, because nobody wants to have to like think about, well, are they going to be like, right? Things happen all the time. And so the last thing that you want to do is put any doubt in their mind as to why they're would want to book you. I
Right.
mean, there are so many things like you can, whether it's scheduling posts or, like you said, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things like a lot of people don't scroll down that far on your feed. So you can totally use stuff from last year, from the year before.
Blogs
No,
too. Blogs too. I think I heard that one time on a workshop one time. They were like, use blogs from a couple of years ago if it's still relevant. Like if you're giving
yeah,
5 tips for creating a budget, turn around and
totally.
take the pictures up, change the pictures up, change judge up a little bit to, if
Yeah,
there's any, and repost it, and it's gonna bring it back, bring it back up. But also take this time and really, because they say the things that you keep putting on the list and you keep adding to the bottom of the list, is things that either A, you did not want to do to begin with, or B, I mean reality, or B, you're not good at it. So
right.
then start researching somebody. Like if you love to play in flowers, right? My beautiful floral designers out there, you all love to create beautiful flowers. Then go find yourself a VA to help you put together these proposals and these contracts and send those out. You have to do that because you're also gonna not get money. And what's happening is, just like you have a bunch of time, potential clients have a bunch of time. So they're doing a lot of research. They're researching. They're watching you on Instagram. They're watching your YouTube videos. They're going on your website. They're talking in different Facebook groups. They're spending a lot of time because guess what? They can't come out and see you. They can't come out and meet you at your office or your studio, whatever. So they're doing that. So to really look at it, it's like, okay, what is it like the revenue? You have to think of the revenue generating things that you have to do. God, that was hard to say. But like, what's going to generate revenue? There you go, for you. And it's like, you might think like I'm wasting time, like working on my website, working on my branding, working on my copy, doing these blog posts, and on and on and on. No, you do all this now. I have a really good friend of mine, a business friend of mine. She's just a good friend. She said this to me about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was up making a big decision, and she's like, you have to do things now that your future self will thank you for. So if you have we still have a few more months, and I will tell you, we are still going to have a really good engagement season. People are going to get engaged from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day. They are. People are still getting engaged now. I've seen 3 or 4 engagements just pop up in my feed recently, and I'm posting and congratulating people all over the place. But you have to prepare for the middle of 2021. And I told my team, we're going to be busy in 2021, but 2022,
It's going to be crazy.
because it's always 2 years. It takes about 2 years. I remember 2008 hit, and the hotel I was working at, we were really busy. We were doing $200 to $250 per person packages, all inclusive. Like we included everything but the photographer and the DJ. And it went from that to like chef was like, okay, well, if we don't lower these prices, we're not going to have any catering. So we went from $250 packages to like $50 to $75. You DIY it. We provide you the basics, right?
Right.
But then 2 years later, I went to another hotel, and I was bonusing left and right, and could barely keep up with the weddings. And it was about 2 years later. So it takes about 2 years. So I will tell you this, Meg. We between middle of May and end of July, we booked 8 weddings.
Yeah.
And some for this year, and a lot for next year. And then we have brides talking to us about 2022.
Yep.
So it's like, and they're like, oh, I saw your Instagram, or somebody referred you, and it's because we're showing up.
Right.
You have to make the decision as the owner of the business, and as the chief event officer of your business, or the chief executive officer, whatever you want to call yourself. Don't just say that you're the boss. Just don't, pay that yearly bill to register the LLC and your taxes. You have to actually establish the business that you want for the future. And I feel like this is kind of like a little restart right now. Like if you haven't done that, it's the time to get that stuff together.
Absolutely.
That's
Perfect.
crazy.
Perfect advice for what's going on, and I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for
You're
coming on
welcome.
today. So much
Thank
fun.
you.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
And I
I'm
mean,
excited.
I think that honestly, I think that the future of the wedding industry looks brighter than ever.
I
But
think so.
people really, like, first you have to be willing to show up. I mean, that's, you can't last.
No. And not like you said earlier, not worry about everybody else. Because a lot of times we worry about what someone else is doing and then we start nitpicking about what they're doing. But like yesterday, my associate planner, Rachel, said something. She was just really busy yesterday, and it was like it was almost time for me to like shut down. And she was like sending me messages, and she was working. Like tomorrow, we have a live all talking about budgets tomorrow. So it's her and I, because we constantly have budget talks, and I'm like, we need to do this on an Instagram live because we're always talking about budgets. So she sent me the graphic, and like she had all this stuff. She was just on it yesterday. Last night I was like, go girl! Like I gave her kudos, and she goes, she said, "'Tis the season to do." I said, I had to tweet. I was like, tweet. I don't even tweet because that's another. I'm like, I'm done with that world. I'm like, I'm just not. I was like, tweet that or Instagram that. And I literally I put her picture and I created a little Instagram story. I was like, "'Tis the season to do what you're doing." Like, what you doing?
And that's,
It,
yeah, you gotta, you gotta do it.
yeah. And the thing about it is, like we both said this in the beginning, if just decide. I've seen so many, not so many. I've seen a few of our businesses here are seniors, our citizens, like are people like people that've been in this for a minute, like our higher level people here in Atlanta and just throughout the country, who's like, you know what, I'm just gonna cut my losses and move on because they're tired and or they've done it for so long, or they're like, I've been through enough recessions, I've been through whatever, and it's time for me to retire. That's cool, but if you still want to be in the game,
Yeah,
you gotta work hard. So 'tis the season to do.
that's perfect. Perfect way to end it. If you guys want to learn more, absolutely hit up Irene. So it's hold on, at Tyndale Events, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or also you can follow me at Irene Tyndale. So so yes, those two places. And yeah, we're excited because we're also putting together a mini masterclass all about production schedules, which is what we call our timeline. I've been told that our timelines are a little bit crazy, but God forbid something happened to me, anybody could execute the wedding.
And it's important, those are things that,
Mhm.
again, like you have to have that for your business. So, really making sure that you have all of those things taken care of during this time allows you to be the true CEO for here and going forward.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you could dominate next year moving forward.
That's right. Awesome. Well,
Well,
thank you.
thank you so much.
I loved it. And again, you guys can find Irene at Tyndale Events. And I hope that, you can Netflix and chill.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to do
Appropriate.
it. I'm just saying
When appropriate.
when appropriate.
Yeah.
Like don't do it for 12 hours out of the day. Like when I get off of here with you, I'm gonna cook some dinner. We'll watch some. We're on the series of the Cosby Show. We'll go watch some Cosby Show, and then it's mommy and daddy, nighttime TV. Like it's just you have to balance. It's like everything else. Prioritize.
I love it. I love it. Well, have a wonderful night, everyone.
You
Thanks so
too,
much
honey.
for joining.
Thank
And
you.
we will see you guys tomorrow. We have Becca tomorrow talking about Pinterest. So hopefully you guys
Oh,
can
fun! I'm
join.
gonna watch tomorrow.
It's going to be a good one.
All right, honey. Have a
Awesome.
good one. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Stay
Bye,
safe.
everyone.